nothing more remarkable in his taking a stroll at night in an easterly wind upon his own rampart, and there would be in any alert middle-aged gentleman, firstly turning out after dark in a crazy spot, say St. Paul's churchyard past him. Literally to astonish his son's weak mind, Scrooge never painted out old Marley's name. There it stood years afterwards above the warehouse door. Scrooge and Marley. The firm was known as Scrooge and Marley. Sometimes people knew the business to be called Scrooge Scrooge. Why would you put names twice in a business name? It's so stupid. Ugh. And sometimes Marley, but he answered to both names. It was all the same to him. Oh, but he was a tight-fisted hand at the grindstone, Scrooge. A squeezing, wrenching, grasping, scraping, clutching, covetous old sinner, hard as sharp as flint, from which no steel had ever struck, out generous fire, secret and self-contained, and solitary as a monster. The cold within him froze his old features, nipped his pointed nose, shriveled his cheeks, stiffened his gait, made his eyes red, his thin lips flew, and spoke out shrewdly in his grating voice.
Humbug!
Hark the herald angels sing, glory to the newborn. Hark the herald angels sing, glory to the newborn King. Peace on earth and mercy mild, God and sinners reconciled. Joyful holy nations rise, join the triumph of the skies. With the angelic hosts proclaim, Christ is born in Bethlehem. Hark the herald angels sing, glory to the newborn King.
The door of Scrooge's counting house was open, that he might keep his eye upon his clerk, who in this little cell upon a sort of tank was opening letters. Scrooge had a very small fire, but the clerk's fire was so very much smaller that it looked like one coal. But he couldn't relish it, for Scrooge kept the coal box in his own room, and so surely as the clerk came in with the shovel, the master predicted that it would be necessary for them to part. Wherefore, the clerk put his white comforter and tried to warm himself at the candle, in which effort, not being a very man of strong imagination, he failed.
A Merry Christmas, Uncle. God save you. Bah! Humbug. Christmas? A humbug, Uncle. You don't mean that, I'm sure. I do. Merry Christmas? What right have you to be merry? What reason have you to be merry? You're poor. What right do you have to be dismal? What right do you have to be moved? You're rich enough. Humbug! Don't be cross, Uncle. What else can I be when I live in such a world as fools as this? Merry Christmas! Out
who, cold as he was warmer than Scrooge, for he returned to him cordially.
There's another fellow, my clerk, 15 shillings a week and a wife and a family. While he's talking about Merry Christmas, I'll be in my bed.
This lunatic and letting Scrooge's nephew out had let two other people in. They were portly gentlemen, pleasant to behold, and now stood with their hats off in Scrooge's office, books and papers in their hands, and about him. Jesus, Lord, King.
Scrooge and Marley's, I believe. May I have the pleasure of addressing Mrs. Scrooge for Mr. Marley's?
Mr. Marley died 7 years ago. He died 7 years ago this very night.
We have no doubt his estate is well represented by a surviving partner. Scrooge, it's more than usually desirable that we help the poor and lonely at this time of year.
Are there no prisons?
Plenty of prisons.
Are the union workhouses? Are they still in operation?
They are, still. I wish I could say they were not.
Well, I'm very glad to hear it. I help support the establishments I've mentioned.
A few of us are endeavouring to raise a fund for the poor surviving. Food and drink and support. What should we put you down for?
Nothing.
You wish to be anonymous?
I wish to be left alone. Since, gentlemen, you ask me what I wish, this is the answer I will give you. I cannot afford to make other people merry, and I can't afford to make myself merry at Christmas. But excuse me, I don't know that.
But you might know it.
I don't want to. Good afternoon, gentlemen.
God bless you, merry gentlemen, let nothing you dismay. Remember Christ our Saviour was born on Christmas Day. God bless you, merry gentlemen, let nothing you dismay. Remember Christ our Saviour was born on Christmas Day.
You want holidays from tomorrow, I suppose?
It's quite convenient, sir.
It's not convenient and it's not fair. You'd think yourself ill-used if I stopped half a crown for it, I'll be bound. But you don't think me ill-used when I pay a day's wages for no work?
The clerk observed that it was only once a year.
A poor excuse for picking a man's pocket every 25th of December.
Scrooge took his boring dinner in his boring tavern, and having read all the newspapers, no wonder this guy is quite up his silly. He's quite boring if he's reading all the papers. And bejeweled the rest of the evening with his banker books. Went home to bed. He lived in chambers which had once belonged to his deceased partner. They were a gloomy sort of rooms. In fact, that there was nothing at all particular about the knocker on the door, except that it was very large, and also a fact that Scrooge had seen it night and morning during his whole residence in that place. Also, that Scrooge had as little as what it was called fancy about him as any man in the city of London. Let it also be borne in mind that Scrooge had not bestowed one thought of Marley since his last mention of his 7 years dead partner that afternoon. And then let any man explain to me, if he can, how it happened that Scrooge, having his key in the door of the lock, saw in the knocker, not the knocker, but Marley's face. As Scrooge looked fixedly at the knocker, it was a knocker again. To say that it was not startled or his blood was not conscious of a terrible sensation to which it had been, a stranger from infancy would have been untrue. But he put his hand upon the key he had relinquished, turned it sturdily, walked in, and lighted his candle.
Humbug.
face to desire that. Sitting room, bedroom, all as they should be. Nobody under the table, nobody under the sofa, a small fire in the grate, spoon and basin ready, and the little saucepan of brew.
Scrooge had a cold in his head.
Upon the hob, nobody under the bed, nobody in the closet, nobody in his dressing gown, which was hanging up in a suspicious attitude against the wall. Living room as usual. Old fire guards, old shoes, 2 fish baskets, washing stand on 3 legs, and a poker. Quite satisfied, he closed the door and locked himself in. Double locked himself in, which was not his custom. Thus secured against surprise, he took off his tie, put on his dressing gown and slippers and his nightcap, and sat down before the fire to take his brew. It was a very low fire indeed. Nothing as such on a better night. He was obliged to sit close to it and roll over it before he could extract the least sensation of the warmth from such a handful of food. As he threw his head back in the chair, his glance happened to rest upon a bell, a disused bell that hung in the room and communicated for some purpose now forgotten with a chamber. Why is this book teaching me French? Like, really? In the highest story of the building, it was with great astonishment and with a strange